Hey folks, Curtis Stone here. We are carrying on our video series where we're looking at every state and province in North America and analyzing them on their potentials for homesteading. We're going to look at the good, bad, and the ugly. And we're going to do something new in these, as we've been going through, we've been finding better ways to add value, also listening to some of your guys' comments. And what we're going to do is feature a couple properties in every state review. And so at the beginning I just kind of did that off the fly. But now we're going to do it in every video going forward. So you can look forward to that. So today we're going to look at South Dakota, the state of South Dakota, right in the heartland of the United States. Well, is this the heartland? I guess, no, maybe the heartland is down here. This is a lot of agriculture, the Midwest, I guess. Wouldn't be my top state to live in, that's for sure. But, we're going to look at every state and consider every aspect of it. So, whether this is my state of preference or not doesn't really matter, because you might have a reason to live here. And so, people ask me all the time, where should I move to? What state should I live in? What province should I live in? Well, of course, I have my opinions about that. And I might suggest certain states over others. But at the end of the day, if you have a reason to be in South Dakota, you're born there, maybe you got family there, you have a reason to live there, that's going to trump my opinion. So we're going to look at every single state and consider the best places or the worst places you could be. So let's just start by generally, I'll kind of just a little overall in the state, and then we'll look at our no-go zones, places we want to avoid, good areas to consider, and then we're going to look at some properties in there as well. And so just right off the bat, you guys, if you like these videos and you want to learn more about the way I'm doing these, go and check out freedomfarmers.com. There's a link in this video. Go check out that little course that I've got where I can show you how to use Google Earth and do a similar assessment as I am. And what I say to people all the time is that if you're looking for a property to live on and you want to get off grid, you want to get out of the way, the best way to find a property that's going to be successful for you is to look at a large sample. So looking at a lot of properties, it's just repetition over time, recognizing patterns, seeing things by just doing it over and over again. That's why Google Earth is such a great tool, is that you can look at 100 properties and figure out almost 90% of what you need to figure out. And then so you can eliminate visiting 100 properties. Maybe you can sample 100 properties and only visit 3, and one of those is going to be a winner for you. And that's the power of this software. Okay, so right out of the gate, South Dakota is, it's very flat. It's a prairie. It can get pretty cold in the winter. There's a lot of big ag in this area, and because of that, I'm not a big fan of it, to be honest. But we're going to try to be as objective as we can and just look at the state in general. I would say probably in general, the eastern side from the main river here is more green. Therefore, it's going to be a bit more. Might be better conditions for growing. So let me just kill those roads because they kind of hide a lot of it. But you can just see that there's a lot more green over here than there is on this side. And this is, this whole part of the United States here in general is a rain shadow from the Rocky Mountains. So as precipitation comes in from the West Coast, when it hits these mountains, it hits the mountains and then it drizzles down from the mountains. And so you get this huge part of the U.S., which is really, really dry. Basically this whole section here, Western Texas, New Mexico, much of Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, parts of North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, is really, really dry. And it makes conditions not so great for people. And that's why a lot less people live in those areas. So kind of common sense, maybe not, but very easily observable when you just look at a map of the United States. So when it comes to South Dakota, we want to avoid the big city areas. We put a blanket 50-kilometer radius around all major cities, and we just say generally speaking, it's better to avoid those areas. And again, it doesn't mean that if you find a really good property in and around here, it's not going to be a great property. We just say, generally speaking, if you can avoid major cities, it's better. Because if the proverbial shit were to hit the fan and the grocery stores were empty, people are going to be flooding out of those cities looking for resources, just like every zombie apocalypse movie you've ever seen. Those jam ups on the major highways, etc. That's part of why we just say it's better to avoid the big cities. If you want to be off grid, if you want to get on the land, you're better off being away from those places. So generally speaking, let's avoid those places. Now, there are issues with water in South Dakota, and this area here is, as you can see when you just zoom in, this is rough. This is dry, and I would generally avoid it, because where are you going to get your water from? If it's going to come from an aquifer, well, you're competing with other big farms around here that kind of follow along this river valley. But generally speaking, best to avoid areas that are just dry and desolate, because it isn't conducive to growing food. Now, let's look at some good areas, places that you might want to consider in South Dakota. Now, let's just zoom in on some of these here. So here we're in a river area, and we've got some a little bit more variation in topography here than we do much of the state. Got a nice the Missouri River coming through here. We've got lots of ag on here, but not a ton of big ag. I don't see a ton of center pivots, but I do see agriculture. It's kind of unavoidable in some of these states. South Dakota definitely being one of those, Nebraska being another, Iowa, Ohio. Some of these states you just can't avoid being close to bigger farms, but you can be away from the bigger farms. You get into these areas here, now you're going to see a lot of just blocks, big sections of land that are just dedicated to agriculture. In some states it's just unavoidable. This is definitely one of them. But the advantage here is that, you're closer to these rivers, you're closer to a source of water. That's one area. We're going to feature properties too. And so let me just see if any of those features are in here. No, none of them are, but area to consider there. Same here, you've got some bodies of water, but this is all agriculture. So you got to kind of pick your poison. But if I were to pick an area in here, I'd probably be closer to some of these lakes and try to back up to some kind of greenery. But we've got these tributaries here, maybe backing up to those, getting away from just all the blocks of farmland would be key. Another similar situation down here. We've got a little bit more diverse topography. We've got some, smaller mountain ranges. You might want to consider being in and around here, maybe not so much in the heart of it, but we got a property here we can just kind of zoom in and look at. See, look at this. It's not right up against all these blocks of farms. You've got some greenery in here. This is a cool property, actually. So coming in, we've got trees. I like trees. You got to have trees. What I always say to people is be on the high ground in the trees. Trees they do everything for us. They shelter us. They protect us from wind. They shade us in the summer. They help absorb the snow. The forest is a key part of human life, and it's very, very key. So this property here has got a lot of the hallmarks of what we like to see. So we've got we're at a dead end road, which is amazing. So you come in, you've got an offset from that road. This looks like an old barn. Come in, you've got a little turnaround driveway here, which is great. Coming back further, you've got some animal paddocks tucked in and around these trees, which is nice. You've got your own source of water coming through here. There's lots of space to develop, right? You've got all kinds of different landings. I like how this guy put these driveway accesses in. He's got turnaround there, turnaround there, turnaround there. That's convenient. Also, very convenient and nice as far as developing the infrastructure of your homestead when you have the turnaround where the home is. So that's what he's got here. He's got a big kind of barn and this turnaround of the house here. So, this addresses one of the 11 scales of permanence that I like to see is zones of use. So when you have a nice turnaround driveway there, if you're going to add more infrastructure to this homestead, you can just add it in and around there. It gives you good access. So perhaps, let's say, what are we missing here? We don't have a greenhouse on this homestead. So if I were to put a greenhouse on this homestead, I would definitely put it in here or off this turnaround. Maybe you could put it here. You could drop a nice big high tunnel there and have good southern exposure, right? You could do something like that, put a nice big high tunnel there, and then you've got access to it. So you can load when you're bringing in soil, or let's say this is a big nursery greenhouse, when it comes time to transplant in the springtime, and when you're transplanting on a farm this size, this is a big farm, you can drive your tractor right up to the greenhouse, load all your nursery flats onto, say you've got maybe a fork, maybe you got a front end loader with some forks and a skid on there, or you've got like a skid on the, some forks on the 3-point hitch. This is what farms will often do, is just throw all the flats on the 3-point hitch, skid loader on the back and the skid loader on the front, and carry out 20, 30 flats at a time, drive them out to the field and transplant them. Maybe this is going to be your market garden here. This is a large section of land, right? A market garden in this case could be done in a very small area. You might want to just do it close to the house or something like that. But this is a big farm, but it's got lots of natural stuff on it, which is what I like. It's got trees, not a ton, but there's not a lot of trees in South Dakota in general. But it's got some there, so that's nice. So that's a nice little piece of land. Not too little, actually. This is, what are we at here with this one? Was that 150 acres? Yeah, this is 100. That was a 150 acre section, in case you're wondering. So let's look at some more good areas of South Dakota. And you're going to notice that all these good areas that we pick are going to have some mixed topography, and they're going to be out of the thick of the farm. So we got two more in this area here close to this little town called Winter. Same thing here. Got another property that's got some tributaries. It's got some trees on it. These would be great windbreaks, and that looks exactly what they were intended for. And we just picked these properties at random. These aren't listings or anything like that. This is somebody's property. So of course, if you go look at them, respect the people's privacy, but we're just picking random places that we see on the satellite. This property is great. So we've got lots of trees around here. We're backed up to some topography here, which we've got some natural tributaries, riparian areas is what these are bodies of water that are surrounded by vegetation, lots of trees and such. So great property at the end of a dead end road, totally ideal there. Good offset from the road. Coming in, we've got a great turnaround. All the primary infrastructure is in there, so this is designed well. We've got the house, we've got a barn, we've got feed store or places to put feed. We've got grain silos. There's a ton of typical South Dakota style farm infrastructure in here. Paddocks, you name it. This is a pretty neat farm actually, as far as South Dakota is concerned. It's diversified. This looks like it's almost a full quarter section, 150 acres there. We've got fields for various different things. We've got, this really sheltered out area. You can tell this is a windy area when you see really thick shelter belts like this, right? This is South Dakota for you in general. But that's a sweet little homestead, on the edge of all this farmland coming out here. These areas are a little bit more underutilized, probably for a good reason. It's probably windy as hell out here. But another little spot here backed up onto a little lake. This is nice because all the primary infrastructure of the homestead is off the road. So you come on this road, drive down this long driveway, you've got total privacy. And look at this, they did it really well. Lots of trees all around here. This is all protected and sheltered, which is very, very necessary in this kind of climate. Same as North Dakota, same as Saskatchewan, Manitoba. these are pretty tough climates. So there you go. There's some good properties there, but yeah, areas to consider, being close to rivers, near topography. I wouldn't want, if I was going to pick a property in this area, I wouldn't want to be just right in the middle of this. I'd want to be on the edge. I'd want to be along here. I'd want to be backed up to something natural, just so you're not completely surrounded by farm spraying glyphosate. So, but that's one of the sad realities in a state like, in all these states, just pretty much North Dakota, South Dakota, most of Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas. This is big ag country. Parts of Colorado too. When you're driving in Nebraska, this is all big ag. Is that, I suggest people don't live in these areas at all, but you might have a reason to, right? And your reasons aren't mine. So we'll take all those to consideration. But definitely, when you're in any of these states, you want to be as backed away from ag as possible and backed onto natural areas, river valleys, mountains, forested areas, riparian areas. Those are your refuge away from chemicals and large-scale agriculture. So hope you guys found that helpful. Again, if you want to see more stuff like this, if you want to learn some of the fundamentals of how I do these assessments, there's a link in this video. Go click on it. Check out these 3 tips I have, how you can avoid making a big mistake by buying the wrong property, and I'll show you how to do some of these tips and tricks on how to use Google Earth. All right, guys, if you like the video, smash the like. Leave a comment below. What should we do next? Where should we go next? Everybody's saying, do this state, do that state. Well, we're going to do all those states. We're going to do every state and every province in Canada. And we're making our way through. But let me know what you think and where you want to see me go next. All right, folks, see you in the next one.